Nice.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome back, guys. So today we are in the beautiful Sun Valley. We just wrapped up 2 weeks of backcountry shooting up in Stanley, Idaho. And today we're going to be covering a video that I have wanted to do for a very long time. And that is going to be what goes into ski construction and how to use that knowledge to pick the right ski for you. I've been holding off on this video for a really long time because I wanted to do it in an environment where I was able to bring the most amount of information to you and also bring as many examples to show you along the way. And so luckily we've paired up with Black Tie Sun Valley, who has a surplus of tons of different skis, everything from historical treasures to some of the newest, latest and greatest. And I've also brought in my friend Harry Oettinger to share a bunch of his knowledge because, let's be honest, he knows a lot more about this than I do.
Hi, my name is Harry Oettinger. I'm an owner here at Black Tie Sun Valley. I have 23 years of ski industry experience, starting with being a boot fitter. And then I moved into ski design and building my own skis. Found out I couldn't really make money doing that, so I built and designed presses for people to make skis at home themselves. And then I purchased Black Tie of Sun Valley. And this is my favorite part of my career because I get to use my experience and my knowledge to help get people into the right gear to enhance their vacation experience.
So needless to say, we're gonna have a ton of information coming at you guys today from construction, dimensions, all sorts of stuff. And then towards the end of the video, we're gonna go through a bunch of different use cases depending at where you are at in your own ski journey and what ski might be right for you and what you should be looking at in a ski. If you are in the market for skis, if you are looking at getting into skiing, if you don't know what to rent, if you've never seen a ski before, this is the video for you. Let's get into it. Okay, real quick guys, I wanna warn you in advance, Harry here is absolutely an expert on this stuff and I am a fanatic. So this next section is gonna get very technical into ski construction. If you just want the long and short of it and you want a very, very cursory understanding where you can pick up a ski and know exactly what's going on, I would skip to this time code here and you don't have to hear me and Harry go back and forth on all the technicals. Okay, so starting right off, I wanna get into how you can personally inspect a ski and the different construction techniques that go into the ski. So that's gonna include the dimensional stuff like waist, side cut, rocker, and camber. Each of these different measurements is stuff that you can personally look at on a ski just by picking it up and learn a ton about the ski, but how they interact is actually really complicated, and that's why I feel really lucky to have Harry here to explain it to me.
Well, let's start with side cut, because that's the most obvious thing that you can see when you look at a ski. Right here we have an Octo by Black Crows, and it's got a huge amount of side cut. And that means thick at the tip, thick at the tail, skinny in the middle. It's not quite as simple as that because you can have skis with with the exact same dimensions, but very different turn radii. How these different radiuses interact have a very large effect on how the ski turns and how the ski initiates. I love this because it is extreme in the short turning radius. We have a very, very pronounced initiation zone. We have a very pronounced zone at the tail to hold you in and rocket you out of the back of the turn, and super skinny in the middle, so with just a little bit of angulation, you make a very tight carved turn across the slope. Sounds great, right? But it's actually terrible if you're in soft snow because all of your surface area is at the ends of the ski. So they rise up, you sink in the middle, and there's no way to pivot. It feels like your feet are stuck in cement. So just because a side cut is great in some circumstances doesn't mean it's great in another circumstance. And if you're looking for a one ski quiver, you probably shouldn't get a ski that is too far in one direction or the other. But if you have a few skis and you want to have a ton of fun regardless of the conditions, you can look at a ski like this and it might be a great choice for you.
One thing I'd be really curious about with the side cut is how that actually forces the ski into its flex and how it engages a turn. And one thing that we used to look at back when I was racing is you would take the ski and you would flip it up on its edge on a flat surface where you can really see how much side cut is present there. So if you were edging this ski on like an icy slope and you got up to this edge, theoretically there would be a gap here. But because of your weight as well as your force, you're actually bending that ski to engage that edge more and engage the tips and tails fully, essentially to gain control.
Absolutely. And a great way to think of that is actually just how much you have to tip that up on edge. In theory, if we're able to get any ski with any amount of side cut at a 90-degree angle, you could bend it a huge amount, a much shorter turn than is listed right there. And ski companies, they know this and they play around with that number. they don't all use, say, a 45-degree angle of attack to calculate their radius. They can take these dimensions and say whatever they want. They don't have to list exactly where that radius is calculated. So it's a good idea for you to look at it, think about, well, how far do I really get it over, and how much is that bending? And you going to a ski shop, there's a lot of skis on the wall, you can look at the differences and get a pretty good idea of how that's going to turn. A lot more of an idea of how the ski is going to turn than if you take a ski off the wall and you start bending it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when that tells me when I bend a ski, but I sure do it every time I'm shopping.
So that was pretty complicated, and I think that's just because we kind of started in the hardest point. But what could you just very quickly summarize by looking at the amount of side cut that you see in a ski?
The more side cut you see, the more fun it's going to be on hard snow, the quicker it's going to come across the fall line to help you control your speed, or the easier it's going to be to bend that ski really far and then release that energy and snap into the next turn.
But the more anchor you're going to feel in soft snow, correct?
It's going to feel like your feet are stuck in concrete in soft snow.
So it kind of comes down to where you're skiing, and I think that's something that we're going to see pretty consistently across the board with all of these different dimensions. So let's move into camber and rocker and how those play into it, because obviously, you know, the stereotype is that if we're skiing a powder ski, we're skiing as much rocker as possible, and if we're skiing a race ski, we're skiing as much camber as possible. But let's talk about what those dimensions actually look like and how they might actually make a difference in those situations.
Absolutely, and this is still a great ski to look at because it has all of those things. At the tip, we have rocker, which means the ski starts to rise up before the contact point of the side cut. And the funny thing is we're actually still doing that now in race skis because nobody wants to have to work harder than they need to initiate a turn. So the race world learned from the freeride world. And the more rocker you have, though, the less edge you have contact with the snow.
So it skis shorter, essentially,
because you're
taking off the amount that you're actually contacting. Until you're in deeper snow, though, because then you would be sinking in and getting more contact patch along that rocker.
Exactly. And then speed plays a role in that. If you think of that, you're creating lift with this rocker. You have literally an angle of attack like a wing being created by the tip of your ski. And then the more liquid, snow, it's a liquid, you get under there by going faster, the more lift you get, and then the more you rise up. So you can have a ski that has some rocker, that doesn't have too much side cut, and if you're going really fast, you don't actually have to be on that wide of a ski to get that lift and get that surfy feeling.
So you talk about it acting like a wing. I think what we would call that, especially in backcountry skiing, is float. Essentially, how easily does that ski get up on top of deeper snow? And so long and short of what we're covering in rocker is that essentially the more rocker that you have, the easier to initiate turns, but also the more float you're going to get in deeper snow. So rocker very much contributes when you're in softer, deeper snow. And personally, in my opinion, also when you have a lot of crud that you're trying to get up and over as well, or you want to ski shorter than its actual length. But what about camber? Because for a while there, we were seeing skis that were full rocker. We saw just U-shaped skis. But nowadays, we're going back to more and more camber. And I feel like that might be a result bit of an overcorrection briefly. So what are the benefits of bringing back camber? Because this is a very well-rounded ski, and it's got quite a bit of pronounced camber, with that camber starting very, very close to the tip and going almost completely to the tail.
Absolutely. So camber is what gives a ski life on anything other than perfect powder. Camber is like the leaf spring on a car. It lets you put energy into it and then spring back out. You don't want the ski underneath you to feel dead. And then it was both I would say those U-shaped skis were both, it was an overcorrection, but it was also, we were experimenting and learning so much about what you could do with the ski. And then we realized, hold on, we can put the rocker in the tip, we can have the camber in the tail, and have the camber underfoot, pardon me. And then, you know what? When we start getting that float, we start getting that lift. If we don't make the ski too stiff, we can overcome that camber. We can have both. And it doesn't hurt anything to have both.
I've been shocked to see that, because even in like the Ben Shetler's, a very, very popular, well-rounded ski that's known for its park and its powder performance, they've started to introduce more camber to give it a more lively feel. I think one of the things that a lot of intermediate and beginner skiers don't fully recognize in a ski is that you're actually returning energy from your turn. So if you come from a race background, this is common sense, but if you're newer to skiing, you might not understand what's happening. But as you load the ski up into a turn and you get it flexing, you're essentially loading up a spring, and then when you exit that turn, it's gonna pop back at you, and that can give you more speed, it can give you more control, it can initiate your next turn, and is a critical part of skiing that is essentially completely enhanced and requires camber on harder snow to actuate.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a lot about the different dimensions. So if you could summarize it all down so that people could pick up this ski right now and be able to tell exactly who this ski is for and whether it's right for them, how would you summarize each of the 3 dimensions we've talked about so far?
Easy. If you're on hard snow and you love being on hard snow, get more side cut and more camber.
Okay.
If you really like being in soft snow and you want to float above it and you want a forgiving ski, get less camber, less side cut, and more rocker.
So personally, as like primarily a freeride and backcountry skier, I'm almost never on hard snow. So I really like a ton of rocker, a really fat ski in the middle, and almost no side cut. But that's not everything that goes into a ski, because when I'm taking landings, I can notice a major difference between 2 skis that look identical if the internal construction is different. And there are a ton of materials that go into the internal construction of a ski. This is super stupid. You might think this is stupid, but my favorite way to say it has always been that ski construction is very similar to the wands in Harry Potter. There's that hilarious scene where he's like, they're talking about the unicorn hair and the phoenix feather and the different woods and how it like contributes to different types of magic. I feel like that's with skis, because you can have almost anything in a ski nowadays. You have composite materials, foam, metal, fiberglass, carbon fiber, and then that's all the different types of woods that you can have. So people are like, oh, I've got bamboo in my ski, I've got poplar, I've got anything. So it's very complex. But what would you summarize or think is most essential about the internal construction of skis?
Well, I think really it's the interplay of all those things. And I think you hit the nail on the head with how companies describe their skis. They want them to sound magical, and they don't want you to be able to really tell from what they say what it's going to be. And I really hope by going through all of those different things and how they play together and how they play with side cut, we can turn it not into a magical mystery for viewers.
Let's start with the big one, because there's always this discussion around metal, and it's always either my ski has this much metal or my ski doesn't have this much metal, and they brag about it equally. So what does metal actually do in a ski, and what are some of the alternatives and the different pros and cons that we see with that type of construction?
Absolutely. So the reason metal is considered premium in skis is because it's a fantastic material to add dampness and energy to a ski at the same time, because if you use it on the top and bottom of the core of the ski, you've created a laminate with 2 separated springs. At the same time, it adds weight. I mean, weight is a really good way to reduce vibrations. It adds stiffness in a different way than fiberglass or the wood does. So race skis use metal. Racers are good skiers. We should put metal in our high-end skis. Well, thank goodness, the last 20 years we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
My favorite skis do have metal in them. That's my background, that's what I like, but I have a lot of appreciation for how companies are using skis that have no metal in them and making them ski amazing in tons of conditions, and they just feel different. I think we should also really explain to people the metal in skis that is called titanol does not contain titanium. It is simply an aluminum that is treated to bond more easily. So it is aluminum. There were some skis that had steel in them. Volants, if you've ever skied on a Volant, it skis differently from anything else. It's very cool. And then there was an inexpensive ski from Atomic called the Smoke. It was super, I think it was like a $3.99 package ski. It had a blown foam composite core, but they stuck a piece of mild steel down the center, and that totally changed how it felt compared to other skis at its price point, just by adding a piece of metal. It still wasn't that good of a ski, but it felt totally different.
So I find it really interesting that you say that some of your favorite skis have metal, because in my personal experience, I've really liked skis that don't. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that I'm walking uphill a lot, so I have to carry that weight with every step. But the other thing is that I just don't weigh a lot. So the more weight that's towards my feet, the more effort I have to put in to deal with that. And I tend to find the skis without the metal to be a little bit more forgiving and allow a lighter swing weight, either in tricks or in trees where I'm throwing my tips sideways a lot. I tend to like a very lightweight ski.
I can totally see that. Whereas for me, I wouldn't run uphill if the cops are chasing me. So I really value energy, pop, and return.
Okay.
I've got 100 pounds on you.
That's
and
fair.
I really love taking that energy, bending the ski, and just exploding and accelerating down the hill into the next turn. I'm not turning to slow down. I'm turning to go faster. And metal is a great way to get that out of a ski.
So break that down for me. How would you summarize, I think you did it really well earlier, but if you could do it again real fast for me, how would you summarize the difference between a ski with a heavier construction in metal versus a lightweight all wood composite or bamboo ski?
Sure. So that heavier ski, it's inherently going to be stiffer as well. There's no point in making a heavy ski that isn't. Is going to come alive at higher speeds and higher energy levels on hard snow. And the advantage is going to be that it gives you that energy return. However, it is not very versatile. Good luck going through a mogul field in one of those. You do literally go through the mogul field.
Yeah.
They don't float very much.
Okay.
They aren't very nimble. You've really got to either have amazing technique or muscle them around or some combination of both. And I wouldn't want to carry it up the hill on my back, let alone drag it up on my feet. So there's advantages and disadvantages to it.
Perfect. I think if I had to summarize it from my perspective as an athlete, I think I would want to ski with metal on it when I am skiing big open mountain and I'm going to be dropping cliffs and stuff where I need a solid landing platform and I'm going to be picking up a lot of speed that I need to be able to ride through no matter what I'm going through. But I think I very much prefer a metal free ski when I'm doing tree skiing or areas that don't have a lot of open terrain and I need to be doing really quick turns in the trees, because trying to throw a full metal ski sideways is it's hard, to say the least.
Well, you bring up a good point, full metal ski, but for the other things you're talking about, I bet those metal free skis actually do have a little bit of metal in them. Because for binding retention, it's important that you're drilling through something more solid than those lightweight woods. So a lot of companies, even when they make lightweight skis, they put a little bit of metal in this area right here so your binding doesn't rip out.
So that was all really complicated and getting into a little bit of our personal preferences, but let's dial it all back to a very, very simple summary, and then we will move on to what is, in my opinion, the most important thing is durability. So if you had to summarize it down, who should go buy a ski with more metal and who should go buy a ski with less metal?
People who are skiing at the resort, skiing really fast and want that pop and energy out of a ski while carving should get a ski with metal in it.
Okay.
People who are skiing backcountry, side country, or at the resort, and they want a more playful ski. They want a ski that's going to be better in the trees. They want a ski that has pop out of, say, a jump or features on the side of the trail. They should get a ski that doesn't have metal in it.
Perfect. I think that summarizes it pretty perfectly. Whoop. My bad. I think that summarizes it pretty perfectly. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, let's talk about ski durability, because in my personal opinion, as somebody who breaks a lot of skis, not quite like that, it's super important.
I agree, and this cutaway is going to be a great example of quality ski construction. We can see a few things right away, how there are no gaps in the wood here. I am loving that these bonded sections are extremely even. I love how this sidewall isn't too thick. It's not covering up inconsistencies in the wood. And notice we've got metal out here, metal down here, a way to get that sandwich laminate construction without adding all of the weight. It does appear that they are using one species of wood. I don't know exactly which one it is, but I would call it mid-density. And
So,
yeah.
the damage that I personally seem to do to skis way too much is I either blow holes through the base layer, I blow out the edges, or as somebody who does a lot of trick skiing and park skiing, I tend to destroy the top sheet. And that's when my edges are cutting into it and I take chunks out of my sidewall on the top sheet. So what goes into a ski construction that can help prevent that? Because if I'm buying a ski for, $7,000 to $1,000, I want that ski to last more than one season. And a lot of times I feel like they don't.
Well, this is a fairly durable ski, so let's talk about some of the things that we can see. So first, let's look at the thickness of this base material. And I can tell you from experience, that's relatively thick compared to a lightweight ski. If we were to cut apart one of your backcountry skis, a super easy way to save weight is make that thinner. Another super easy way to save weight is to literally just have less edge material. So the total thickness, so from the edge to where the base starts, and then that vertical thickness on this ski, again, compared to some of your backcountry skis, is probably significantly more. That's just more material to wear away.
I think one of the hard parts is that a lot of that internal construction, without actually chopping a ski in half, as we have unnecessarily done, is really hard to see when you're buying a ski.
Almost impossible.
What is stuff that you could potentially look for, or stuff that you could kind of use to gauge? Because it's really hard, you know, with new skis coming out every single year, to guess whether that ski is going to be reliable. What would you say to look for?
Actually, I guess you could look for the thickness of that edge right there.
Just from the bottom?
Just from the bottom. You say, well, that's pretty thick compared to some other skis I'm looking at.
Okay.
The other thing is not actually on this ski, but we can cut away to another one where they chamfer this edge right here.
Okay.
So if the ski is clacking together, so it'll ride up.
We had a lot of experience with this because last year I was working on prototypes for a brand, and in the first week I had taken off tons of top sheet. And when I sent it back, it was a mixture of not pressing it for long enough, and then on top of that, they hadn't applied the chamfer to the pre-production models. And then when we got a later production model that had that chamfer, we have yet to do any damage. And the difference was like night and day.
Yeah. And, you know, we have to assume that whatever ski you're looking at in the store, they've gotten that resin mix right, they've gotten the press time, they've gotten the heat right. We just have to assume they've gotten that. But that chamfer makes a big difference. And I understand why they wouldn't put that in your prototype. It makes for a much more complicated top mold, more expensive to produce. So I would never build a prototype ski that had that chamfer in it, but I'd absolutely add it to a production ski if I had the opportunity.
That makes sense. Solid. Honestly, I think the biggest thing is that I kind of wish I had you guys' shop here to repair my skis, because when I'm on the road shooting, we destroy skis all the time, but we never have the opportunity to repair them. Earlier, we were filming Harry do some of the tuning work that they do here at Black Tie, and despite having skied for 20 plus years now, I was pretty blown away by how in-depth the edge reconstruction process goes and how fine-tuned you can get a ski, because most of the time I'm just skiing it with holes in it.
Sure. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, I can imagine. Honestly, before we take off, I'm going to have you try tuning one of my skis. So
I'd be honored to.
That would be incredible. Okay, so now that we've covered all of the construction elements from, well, I was going to say side cut, but what's left of our side cut, rocker, camber, internal construction, and durability, let's get into some examples so that people who are looking to buy skis can actually see what we would recommend. And
Absolutely.
We can pull some skis from your inventory, I'm hoping to show them.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into it.
Cool.
All right, so the first example ski that I've asked Harry to pull out is a ski for a developing skier or somebody who is in the early stages of progressing. If you are learning how to carve, if you're getting out for your first time, all the way up to becoming an intermediate skier who's ripping down blues and getting into their first couple black diamonds, you said this would be a ski for them. So walk me through what makes this ski a great ski for people to develop on.
Well, first of all, if you're going to develop somebody on a ski, it has to be easy enough for them to use from the beginning. So this ski is relatively soft. It has a very long contact point up here, so it doesn't get grabby if they make a slightly awkward motion. It doesn't punish you for not skiing smoothly. It has a lot of taper to it. So in comparison to other skis, this tail is a lot more narrow than the tip. That allows you to initiate the turn really easily, but control your speed by sliding that back part of the turn. And then overall, it doesn't have a ton of side cut to make it hooky grabby, but that also means as you progress, it doesn't have a ton of side cut, so you don't get that floating at the tip and tail. You can go into the trees, you can go into the bumps. Maybe it isn't the absolute best ski for that, but it's not going to punish you a lot there, especially if you're going at moderate speeds.
So it kind of seems like that taper is going to help like an early skier start to initiate those turns in such a way that they're actually carving as opposed to just blowing out their turns in pizza.
Absolutely. This is forgiving, but it'll give you good feedback when you do something correctly. And that feedback loop is an incredibly important part of learning.
So I have a bit of a hypothetical here. So my name is Johnny. I'm actually 14 years old. And I Googled the best park ski and what Candide's skiing. And it said Idolos. And so I'm trying to convince my mom that the first ski that I want to get is going to be Noodle park ski.
Sure.
What downsides am I going to see from starting on a ski that's very specialized versus a ski like this that has more of that what's supposed to start with?
Candide is absolutely amazing, and he can do amazing things on a ski without the ski helping him. And if you want to ski like Candide, you need good fundamentals. And a symmetrical ski that doesn't help you carve, that really needs to have balance and finesse in order to make it perform is not going to help you learn to ski like he does.
I think one of my biggest things that I've really seen over time as an athlete who's skied with a lot of other professional athletes, sponsored athletes, filmmakers, photographers in the backcountry is that no matter what specialty that you are going to go into as a skier, developing strong fundamentals early on is going to help you. Whether you want to be spinning cork 10 off park jumps or you want to be ripping spine lines in Alaska, at the end of the day, knowing how to put your weight correctly into a ski and initiate a turn in such a way that that ski performs in the way that it's supposed to is going to be an absolute necessity. So I think that a ski like this really encourages people not to skip those fundamentals and helps them get through those fundamentals in such a way that they can then branch out and progress into specialties that they might be more interested in down the line.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So, I mean, with that said, let's look at some park skis and some more fun skis.
Let's do it.
Okay, so now we're getting into a ski that I'm personally pretty excited about. So you've moved on from a beginner ski, you're moving into a bit more specialization. Let's say you are a young guy like me who likes to ski a lot of trees, a lot of pillows, a lot of like really fun, playful stuff, trying to get into some tricks, spins, corks, stuff like that. You pulled out the Ben Shetler 100s. Tell me about them.
This is the do it all, do anything, do it anywhere ski for anybody who's intermediate and up. You don't have to be a full-on expert to get this. It wouldn't be my first ski, but you can progress to this really quickly. It's got a ton of cool features for soft snow. I love how they save some swing weight by using, you know, the core goes all the way to the tip and tail, but out at the edges, we're just trying to get more float. They're using a less and lighter material because there's just no reason to have more wood out there. I love that they included camber in the ski because that gives you pop even off of little features, even in soft snow. Little, you know, having some camber, having some pop, having some life to it, that's fun everywhere. Also, if you put skins on it, it helps you get a little bit more glide on your upstroke. Like it's just not dragging as much because it's keeping that off the snow.
So we talked quite a bit earlier about the different dimensions of skiing, and obviously in a ski like this, we're losing a lot of side cut, gaining a lot of rocker from our beginner skis. And beyond that, do these even have metal in them?
I do not believe that the Bent 100 has any metal in it, but they use a very high quality wood core. And there's more than one way to get pop and life out of a ski. Yeah. So, you know, wood is full of fibers. It's nature's composite. And if you stretch and stress those fibers, they'll spring back. Same thing with fiberglass. So you can make a lively ski. Maybe it won't be quite as damp, or maybe you have to use something else to make it damp, but you can get those properties without the weight.
I think one of the really cool things that I've seen, specifically with the Ben Shetlers in the last couple of years, is that they're being used in everything from free ride to backcountry to park. You see people who are rocking Bent 100s in the park and throwing down huge tricks because of that extremely light tip and tail, providing a very, very light swing weight. Now, as somebody who's more into that sort of stuff, this is a ski that I would personally choose. If I wasn't skiing for the companies that I was, a Ben Shetler 100 is a very, very well-rounded, very, very fun ski. Getting that like a good amount of rocker on tip or tail, really soft up there so you can get a lot of float, and then still having a little bit of camber where you can lay down a carve. This is the type of thing that I personally would lean towards, but it's not for everybody. And a lot of my friends who are in the freeride comps, they like to go towards something with a little bit more oomph. So let's get into some metal skis and some like what I would call performance, but you might call hard charging skis.
Absolutely.
All right, so last but not least, we're getting into our hard charging, high performance. I'm either competing or I am ripping down the slopes at 1,000,000 miles per hour ski. You picked out the Nordica Enforcer 99s. So tell me about why you chose this ski.
Well, first, it's a great comparison to that Bent 100, what's a millimeter between friends. We have essentially the same amount of surface area, but I could not have picked a ski with more different construction.
Okay.
This is, the entire Enforcer line has always been based around a race ski construction. That is 2 sheets of metal laminated around fiberglass and a solid wood core that goes tip to tail. And it's heavy, it's damp, it stomps, but we have that rocker just like we had in the Bent. We have rocker in the tail, we have camber underfoot. That rocker profile is incredibly similar, and that's giving this ski versatility, but it's just smoother when you're going fast. You're not seeing people in the park with this ski though.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch a jump with this thing.
Are not seeing a lot of people going uphill with this ski either. It probably weighs a third more. And you can make up some of that with the binding, but not much.
I do think one of the things though, so personally, I'll throw my biases out there. I wouldn't touch this ski at all. I don't really like weight and I don't like metal a ton, so I try to avoid it as much as possible. But I will say you see these skis in competition a lot, especially in free ride competitions. Why do you think that is?
It's simply because it is a more stable ski at high speed, period. And if being in control and having stability when you are charging at 100% is the most important thing on a ski, this is the kind of ski that you're going to go with.
Yeah, I think the really big thing that you see in those competitions is that those guys have to maintain speed and control regardless of what's underneath them. And a lot of times they're going into cliffs basically blind on a chewed up venue, and they have to be able to land a huge air, reset, and then get ready for the next one all at once. And with a ski like this, which is much as metal as it, with as much metal in it as there is and as much weight and dampening, this is something where you could charge right through crud and not even notice.
Absolutely. And when you're not in a competition, if you're just somebody who is skiing hard out at the resort, by having something that can go that fast but have this rocker, it's versatile. It's the one ski quiver for a lot of people, but it's not going in the park.
I could see that.
Playful is not the word used to describe this.
I think the one way that our crew would describe this ski is as a ski that wants to go downhill, especially with heavier skis, directional skis. There's not really the same twin tip. It's going to be mounted further back. A ski like this wants to point downhill, and if you point it downhill, it will perform at its best.
I believe your crew is correct.
Well, perfect. And guys, with that, that's pretty much everything we're going to cover today. There was a ton of information in here, so I think my personal advice would be go talk to a professional who knows this really well. I have been skiing my whole life, and I've skied a lot of different skis. I get paid to test skis, and even still, talking to Harry, I learned so much about how ski construction actually works and what a lot of the nonsense that we're marketed with actually means. And so I think we're going to leave it there.
Well, it was great being on here with you.
Dude, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
If you guys enjoyed this video, if you learned anything helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe. If you guys are headed out on vacation anytime soon and don't know what to ski, I highly recommend that you hit up our friends at Black Tie. As you can tell, they know basically everything there is to know about this subject, and they're gonna make sure that no matter what skier you are, no matter what type of skier you wanna be, you're gonna end up on a ski that's gonna perform perfectly for you day one.